Good evening, guys. Good evening, guys. I'm Sanjeev Kumar. I hope you have already given or you have already noticed the geography optional paper. Paper number 1. We are discussing the paper number 1. So, questions were not very strange in nature, generally as usual, as coming across various years. Okay, so here question number 1 and question number 5 are mandatory, while other question you have the choice with respect to both the sections. Other 3 you can pick up, but within question number 5, question number 1, you don't have any kind of choice. Okay, so here without wasting time, as we have discussed within the class, or this is very much known topic to the student. Define a speleothem. Define the speleothem. Discuss the various form and features of a speleothem. So, a speleothem is generally associated with all the development of calcareous activities or the geographical formation by the mineral deposition, geographical formation by the mineral deposition that accumulate over a time, generally within the caves. We notice different kind of shape, different kind of forms, development of or deposition of calcium carbonate in different forms within the caves, generally from the roof, top, or at the bottom, generally in the form of stalactite or stalagmite. Okay, so generally within the introduction we can define about speleothem. They are most commonly formed in the calcareous cave due to carbonate dissolution reaction. Due to carbonate dissolution reaction, and they can take variety of forms, generally depend on flow of the water. So, flow of the water will decide what kind of shape they will take and what kind of color of these speleothem will be. It depend on mineral composition, it depend on type of the calcareous product. Their chemical composition, gradual growth and preservation in the cave make them useful paleoclimatic proxies. The vast majority of speleothem are calcareous in nature and composed of calcium carbonate plus minerals. Then you can define generally 3: stalactites, stalagmite, and stagnate forms. So, stalactite, they grow down from the cave ceiling, in conical form, in different other forms. Generally, they attached with the cave ceiling, while stalagmite from the bottom, So, stalagmite is an upward growth, while stalactite is downward growth of these calcareous products. Mound in mineral deposition that have precipitated from the water dipping on the floor cave. So, most stalagmite have rounded or flattened tip, while stalactite generally have in conical shape. And further, when they meet each other, suppose that stalactite continuous development of the calcareous product from the roof and further deposition towards upside in the form of stalagmite. Then they develop a column that is a stagnate form. Stagnate form means complete a pillar kind of shape we noticed over there. Okay. All right, Rohit, Santi. Okay, thank you. Now features. Because question is also asking, demanding the features. So you need to mention, present some features. So here you can mention features made up of calcium carbonate, large source of water, generally water accumulated get deposited, so they are rich source of water as well. Then various shape depend on flow of the water. Then various colors due to composition of different minerals. Suppose that if due to presence of more iron component, etc., maybe the color of stalactite or stalagmite may be the reddish color, or if calcium carbonate completely, then its color may be the white. So from white to reddish to sometimes little bit grays or fat dresses, red, etc., we notice in various form, various colors. Now question number B, because we have to end this session by 8 p.m. So I will not take very long time for discussing one question. Further we need to discuss around more 27 questions. Okay. So quick review, if you want to ask anything, so most welcome. We will do that. What are the high altitude environment hazards? If you anytime tour for Himalayas, for high altitudes, then you are very well aware, you know very well what are the high altitude hazards, especially on the health. Explain with suitable example. So high altitude, first we need to define what is high altitude, what kind of environmental hazard occurred and at high altitude. So anything maybe 2000 or 2400 meter above, we generally consider it as high altitude. Adiabatic lapse rate, further we notice that rapid decrease in the temperature as we go up from earth towards the sky, towards the space, generally temperature decreases. Generally temperature decreases. So adiabatic lapse rate and low temperature generally we notice in mountainous region. Further, glacial outburst, recently we noticed glacial outburst in Uttarakhand. So when glacier melt down rapidly, broken down, block the valleys, this kind of flood situation arises, glacial outburst. Lot of catastrophe took place within the Uttarakhand due to this glacial outburst. Then blizzard or wind. Aeolian factor, they also created huge problem or health hazard generally at higher altitude. Then avalanche, you have noticed avalanche tragedy related to army each and every time we notice generally in Himalayan region. Then because of high altitude and clean environment, you know, after rainy season, sharp, very penetrating UV rays. So at high altitude we also notice more and more ultraviolet radiation, which also impact over the health. Low density of air, poor concentration of oxygen. That's why sometimes doctor also prescribe to some of the patient to move to higher altitude so that their breathing rate can be increased. It may be good for their heart to do more exercise. Then third question is about the pollution dome. Pollution dome may be at ocean or maybe at surface, land surface. So pollution dome, discuss its formation and impact. We have noticed a lot of news over the pollution dome and pollution problem that existed or created generally during the winter time over the land or by oil spills. Pollution dome is a subsea oil containment system comprising of a subsea collector apparatus positioned subsurface to collect leaking oil transferred to the surface. So over there, dome like structure get created where all the polluted gases, all the polluted particles get accumulated. Further, you can also associate with land a mass of polluted air in and above a city or industrial complex which prevented from rising by the pressure of an inversion above it. Okay. Generally during winter time period when the rate of air reduces, the movement of air get reduced, then during such time we notice the pollution dome. Pollution dome get created, especially in Delhi and some of the big cities region. This is quite familiar. What are the impact of such pollution dome over the surface or within the ocean? It led to concentration of polluted product particles in a smaller area. So concentration of polluted particles get increased. Concentration of greenhouse gas also get increased. Health hazard related to breathing problem. Generally asthma patient or generally some of the people or a small child, they are more prone to such disease, maybe during old age or during early age. Generally during Deepavali time period etc., we notice such kind of problems are very familiar and common here in Delhi. Influence of flora and fauna, it also impacted their breathing rate requirement, so their growth is also impacted. Sometimes death also took place due to very high concentration of pollution. Then depletion of environment layer, including the ozone layer if we talk about pollution dome over the land surface. Then due to concentration of greenhouse gases, depletion of ozone layer also took place, depletion of water and soil quality. So these are some of the major impact of the pollution dome, so you need to define that. Now further, when corals, this is more a geography, general geography question rather than geography optional question. You know about coral bleaching, so you can write it very effectively, and we also discuss within the class as well as within the Yojana IS test series. Okay, so you will notice it within the Yojana IS content material etc. When coral are affected by the stress, it causes them to turn completely white. So this is what? This is phenomena of coral bleaching. Explain the reason for such coral bleaching. When coral started to expel the algae with whom they remain in the symbiotic relationship, then they started to change the color. They started to whiten in the color. So corals are made up of genetically identical organism called as polyps, and these polyps have microscopic algae which we called as zooxanthellae living within their tissues. So they live in symbiotic relationship with algae, zooxanthellae. Coral and algae have the mutualistic relationship, they support to each other. Zooxanthellae, algae provide some environment for protection of the coral, while coral provide them food. Okay, coral provide zooxanthellae with the compound necessary for the photosynthesis. With the help of coral, zooxanthellae can do photosynthesis. In return, zooxanthellae supply the coral with organic product of photosynthesis like carbohydrates, which utilized by the coral polyps for the synthesis of their calcium scaltone. Now coral bleaching, you need to define this coral bleaching, whitening of the coral. So when coral faces stress, maybe due to different environmental factor, change in the temperature, change in the salinity, change in the pollution, change in the physical conditions, they feel stress. When coral feel stress by change in the conditions such as temperature, light, such as nutrition, nutrients, they expel symbiotic relationship zooxanthellae living in their tissues, then causing them to turn white. Their color change from greenish to white. So coral bleaching has occurred in the Caribbean, Indian, Pacific Ocean on very regular basis. So it is a very regular phenomenon. Now cause of coral bleaching. Cause of coral bleaching. Coral bleaching generally caused by rise in the temperature because coral are very much sensitive to the temperature. Maybe from 21 degree to around 27 degree, it's okay within their bearable range. If temperature go beyond or lesser than this or above than this range, then they cannot sustain themselves. Rise in the temperature, acidification, it led to death of the coral polyps. Then solar radiation or UV rays. Generally coral also find in the photic zone where sun rays get penetrated. Different infectious disease, chemical pollution, okay, sedimentation, generally they are not developed around the mouth of the river in very disturbed water. Generally they get developed within very calm, cool or sustainable water. Change in the salinity, high or low tide, high and low tide also impacted the penetration of solar radiation. Okay, so this also disturb the coral reefs. That's why they are also responsible for coral bleaching. Human threat, deep fishing and movement of heavy vessels, etc. All these are different causes for the coral bleaching. Okay, so I hope this first D is clear to you. Now first E, the last section of first question. This is well developed soil typically exhibit distinct layer in their soil profile. Well developed soil, if you notice soil texture, if you notice soil profile, different horizons A, B, C, D, E, H, O, etc., then very much clearly defined, clearly segregated into different layers. So here about soil profile, you can give the introduction. The soil is topmost layer of the earth crust, mainly composed of organic minerals and rock particles which support life. A soil profile is a vertical cross section of the soil made up of layers running parallel to the surface. The uppermost horizon is generally dark in color because of rich presence of the humus. Further, there is decrement of the humus and next layer has lesser amount of the humus. Further, again decrement of the humus and more parental rocks. Okay, so we can draw a diagram of the soil profile, we can define that. and we can prove that well-developed soil have very much segregated, defined soil profile. Okay, anything so far? So, we have completed question number 1. Now question number 2. Question number 2. Sequential change in the land use and land cover have brought global and regional ecological change and imbalances you need to elucidate. Sequential change in land use and land cover has brought global regional ecological change. So, what kind of sequential change in the use and land cover has brought the global or regional ecological change? So, land, you can define here that land is crucial natural resource and important determinant of the socio-economic health of the country. Okay. So, land use, lot of change in the land use due to rapid growth of population, more pressure of the population over limited land, which is causing change in the use of the land. Forests are turning into urban areas, pavement of some of the wetlands, destruction of agricultural land for industrial development, okay, fragmentation of forest areas, etc., etc. We are creating more and more stress over the land to fulfill our needs or greeds. In India, on the basis of land use pattern, area of country was divided maybe into the forest land, maybe into the barren land, uncultivated land, other uncultivated land, excluding fallow land, permanent pasture, other organization land, fallow land, old fallow and current fallow land, etc. We can classify them into different categories. Then there are significant spatial and temporal change in the pattern of land use in India. Green revolution caused major change in the land use. Earlier, the forested land generally escaped from the cultivation. After green revolution, more and more cultivation. We are degrading the forest land, uncovered land. Okay, we are cultivating it. Land use change represent almost 25% of total global emission. More and more emission we are creating by changing the land use pattern. Further, rapid population and consequent high pressure on existing resources have an adverse effect on the land resources, as we know that to match the requirement of more and more population, more and more modernization, more and more growth, economic development, we are degrading, we are changing land use pattern. Land encroachment and excessive use of forest resources, then rapid urbanization, industrialization, which has caused huge change, development of more and more concrete jungle rather than tree related or rather than vegetation based forest. We are more developing the concrete forest. Overgrazing, destruction of wasteland, reduction, cultivation of wasteland or wetland, which generally work as the kidney of the earth, which are necessary for sustainable development, for purification of the environment, etc. Now, next question 2B. Explain how various aspects of the channel morphology are used in transportation, settlement, land use, planning, flood control, flood management. So, channel morphology, or we can say river morphology. are quite similar in nature. Morphology with respect to drainage pattern, with respect to the flow of the river, with respect to the management of the river. Okay, so channel morphology is called as river channel morphology or river morphology. It is complete study of channel from geography aspect to channel fluid dynamic aspect. The study of channel related aspect like channel pattern, channel geometry and factors controlling these forms are called as channel morphology. So we can define the channel morphology. We can clarify about the river morphology. Then channel morphology also include studying network of tributaries that joins the river from left or right bank side, their drainage system. Then channel is used in the construct of defining path of flow of water from one place to another place through river, or you can further define the transportation, settlement, land use planning, flood control, flood management. So I think on 5-6 topics you can write 2 to 3 lines, so you will justify the answer. You will satiate the requirement of the answer. Now next question, to see what is the relationship between ocean current and global surface wind system. Explain with the example how does gyres, means water current, huge water current bodies, differentiated in northern hemisphere from southern hemisphere. So you can define about the ocean current. The fast flowing water currents or movement of water from hot region to cooler region to hot region, due to change in the temperature, due to change in the salinity. You can define them. Then you can compare about the northern hemisphere as well as southern hemisphere. Within northern hemisphere, you may define the pattern as clockwise movement, while in southern hemisphere we notice anti-clockwise movement of the ocean currents. Then low wind speed generally due to more presence of land mass in the northern hemisphere, while huge presence of land mass in the southern hemisphere, huge absence of land mass in the southern hemisphere, which further increases the wind speed, which reduces the barrier among the wind speed, which further led to more flow of water current, fast flow of water current. Then you can sort ocean current or gyres. Gyres get developed in shorter region, but in southern hemisphere they cover very large area because of low density of the land or continents. Okay, so here short ocean current or gyre, long ocean currents or gyre. Further, more polluted, this in northern hemisphere, more and more pollution, more and more development of greenhouse gases, more and more wastage of chemicals or different other pollutants in the water. But in southern hemisphere, there is concentration of pollution is low, maybe due to low population density, maybe due to low land mass, okay, due to maybe the fast flowing pace of the current, ocean currents. Then further, more vegetation in northern hemisphere, Sargasso Sea, etc. we notice over there. But in southern hemisphere, more free with respect to vegetation or less vegetation. Okay. So I hope till question number 2 you don't feel very much difficulty in giving the answer, writing the answer. Now further question number 3. Now plants and animals that exist in particular ecosystem are those that have been successful in adjusting to their habit and environmental condition. You need to elucidate. Now here you have already within the class you have already studied the system adaptation method. So not only human, animals, plants, each and everything used to adopt as per the environment condition for a long time period. If you live at higher altitude, then your body used to adopt it gradually. If you move to colder areas, hotter areas, initially you feel some discomfort, then gradually you used to adopt it. Similarly, vegetation also used to adopt it when there is a change in the environmental condition. So species on earth are exposed to change in the environmental condition, many of which are natural and other are man-made. Many of them are natural while others are man-made. Animal and plant survival and successful depend on availability of them and level of the tolerance, survivability of the fittest, okay, over the new condition and the changes. So here adaptation can occur at various level. You can define at genetic level, gradually. Adaptation also include within the genes. So further succession, the successive generation generally adopt such changes in the genes. What we aims for, what difficulty we face, they born naturally with such kind of tolerance. Physical level, physical toughness with respect to facing the change in the environmental condition. Growth and development level, at cultural level. So adaptation we adopt at several levels. At cultural level, culture is also a dynamic concept used to share and culture is also get adopted, or for a long, over a long time period, you live in particular environment condition, that such thing become culture. Okay. Adjustment to certain environment. Adjustment to certain environment. Principle of natural selection dominate, we know. Principle of mutation, concept of succession. So in that you can define this question. All right. Now further 3b. With suitable example describe the impact of movement of air masses on weather and winds in different part of the continent. Okay. So with suitable example, you need to describe the impact of movement of air masses on weather and winds in different part of the continent. So first you can define about the air mass, the column of the air. Okay. So when air remains over homogeneous uniform structure, composition, area for sufficiently longer time period, over a longer time period, when air remain stable, it acquires the characteristic of that particular area. Suppose that if air column remain over hotter region, then air also get to experience to absorb some heat. If air remain over cooler area, then in such condition air also started to become cool. Okay. Then homogeneous region can be vast ocean surface and vast plains or the plateaus on which air column remain for certain time, then it started to absorb some of the characteristic, some of the variation as per that environment. Now, influence of air mass. Further influence of air mass, the properties of an air mass which influence the accompanying weather are vertical distribution temperature indicating its stability and coldness or warmness and the moist content. So air mass carry atmospheric moisture from the ocean to the continent which causes precipitation. From the ocean, when air mass move over the continents, it bring some of the moisture, it absorbs some of the moisture after getting cool at higher altitude, then it is started to precipitate. They transport latent heat. They also manage the heat budget of the earth from one region to another region. Most of the migratory atmospheric disturbances such as cyclone, such as temperate cyclone, storm originate in contact zone when different fronts of the air mass, air column meet each other, then they can develop certain cyclonic or anticyclonic activities, depend on what kind of characteristic they are receiving, what kind of features they are receiving from that particular area. Air masses move from one region to another. With the movement, they also transfer heat, they transfer cold, moisture, okay, dryness, etc. They transfer from one region to another region. According to monsoon theory, the arrival of monsoon is due to transfer of air mass from your Arabian Sea towards the continent of India. Okay. So, you can discuss about role of air mass, the environment, the condition of fog, mist, rainfall, cyclone, anticyclone, cloud burst. Whatever you notice, change in the weather condition, they are generally created by more and more role of movement of different air masses, movement of the air mass. Okay. Now, next question, 3C. Discuss the role of slope, altitude, relief in landscape development. So, I think easily you can discuss about the role of slope. If slope is steep, then landform, development of the landform, more and more kind of landslide, more and more changement, earthquake, mass movement, etc. More pace of the erosion activities or deposition activities, etc., etc. Okay. So, landscape is part of the earth's surface. You can define the landscape. Landscape is a part of earth's surface that can be viewed at one time from one place. At one time from one place, it consists of geographic features that are characterized by particular area. It depends on the slope whether there will be more erosion, whether there will be more deposition. It depends on the slope. Higher will be the slope, higher will be the erosion. Okay. Role of altitude on the land mass. You have noticed more and more mountainous peaks or less plain development, more valley development. Okay. Role of relief in the landscape development. So, you can draw a diagram of different relief development and you can explain it. Now, further next question. Rise of surface temperature. Range of surface temperature being severe consequences. Elaborate the potential change and threat associated with it in the world. Sea surface temperature is rising. We are also analyzing that sea surface temperature is rising. So potential change and threat associated with rise in the sea surface temperature. If temperature is rising, then there is less predictability over the weather condition. Sometimes meteorological department get failed because of change in the climate, because of rise in the temperature. Rapid development of cyclonic activities, more and more rainfall, sometimes there is no rainfall. Rise in temperature, more and more melting of the glacier. Okay. Further, ocean acidification is increasing. Poor heat transfer because cool current and hot current, cold current and hot current, they are not mixing with the pace as they need to mix. There is mixture, there is change in the mixing of the currents, ocean currents, due to which low nutrients mixing is also take place, which is not good for rich water, minerals, or food for different flora and fauna. Then reduction in the flow of prevailing wind. Prevailing wind because of change in the ocean current temperature. Prevailing wind also get impacted. So less mixing, less flow of pollutants present in the air, etc. Food insecurity is increasing further because of it impacting the growth of flora and fauna. Cyclone intensification, more and more intensification of the cyclone in very short span of time, and less predictability plus less scheduled, not following the natural pattern, rather it is following unusual pattern. Food insecurity, weather unpredictability, that is huge challenge for the meteorological department. Then describe how short-term variation in the temperature are related to the process of receiving energy from the sun to Earth's surface and dissipating it to the atmosphere. So you need to describe incoming solar radiation and outgoing solar radiation. Adiabatic, change in adiabatic. Okay, incoming solar radiation, Earth is not getting heat due to incoming solar radiation, but the outgoing solar radiation that get trapped around in the periphery of Earth, which is causing rise in the temperature of the Earth. Okay, so here you can mention that heat budget of the Earth is the balance. Heat budget of the Earth is the balance between incoming solar radiation and the outgoing terrestrial radiation, which maintain the average annual temperature of Earth at 15 degrees Celsius, which maintain the average annual temperature of Earth at 15 degrees Celsius. The total solar radiation reaching a horizon surface on the ground is called global radiation. It comprises direct short wave radiation from sun plus diffuse the radiation scattered by the atmosphere. It may point out that the solar energy received at the Earth's surface is converted into the heat energy which heats the outer surface of the Earth. Thus, Earth after being heated also radiate energy in the form of long wave radiation. Earth release this energy in the form of long wave radiation. So radiation from the sun towards the Earth is called incoming short wave solar radiation, while Outgoing solar radiation cause long wave outgoing solar radiation or terrestrial radiation. So for last question of section 4, with the help of suitable sketches, you need to draw something. Describe the mountain genesis. You need to describe different mountainous genesis and mountainous type, different types of the mountains. Okay, give the suitable example from various mountain system of the world. So you can give any example, maybe Himalaya, maybe Ural mountain, maybe Andes, maybe different other mountains, whatever you feel suitable. You can give the example. Mountainous form, you can further classify them into different volcanic mountain, fold, young fold mountain, okay, block mountain. Then you can develop residual mountain, then dome mountain. You can give example 1 or 2, and further you can sketch the genesis of these mountains. Then this question, the requirement of this question will be satisfied. Now further, this is again a compulsory question, question number 5. It is mandatory to be attempted by all the aspirants. I hope each and everything is clear. If further there is any query, I will attend this. Now, question number 5A, analyze the effect of globalization on the language. So, such kind of question are generally common to each and every student. And a student, while answering such question, because each and every question a student have capacity to write such question, so you need to emphasize more over balance of factual information as well as conceptual information. In good presentation, analyze the effect of globalization on the language, means how globalization is impacting the language, whether it is strengthening local vernacular language, whether it is causing vulnerability or extension of vernacular or local languages, whether there is a dominance of Mesotarian based language, or is there any Sanskritization, means the lower section of society leaving its own language and trying to adopt the language of elite class, maybe just like English at present, earlier Sanskrit, after that Hindi, etc., etc., means each and every time the lower section of society started to adopt the language of higher section of society to increase more and more its opportunity, to increase its social status, further to reap more and more opportunity, to seek better environment, and to associate itself with the higher class, etc. So globalization is leading to both the factors. It is leading to extension of the vernacular language. It is also leading to strengthening of local or vernacular language. In some way, how it is leading to depletion? Because of dominance, because of shifting the mode of communication from local language towards uniform language. And how strengthening of the vernacular language? Because due to globalization, more awareness, because more spread of the language, particular language across different regions of the world, plus more and more emphasis by some politician, by some scholars, by some activists, by some intellectuals, okay, for development of more and more language. So globalization, you can define process increasing interdependence, interconnectedness, integration of economies, societies, integration of different languages as well in the world. So globalization, you can define process interacting, integrating interdependence among people, companies, government, among different languages. Okay. How it is impacting? You can put forward some negative impact, you can put forward 5-6 points with respect to negative factors of globalization over the language, and 5-6 points with respect to positive factors for language development, multi-linguistic operation model or system that we noticed at different international platform. Vernacular language, its strengthening as well as its depreciation. Further, majority based dominant language, more prevalent over the world, have a strong vocabulary. Sanskritization, from leaving one language and adopting towards another language. Extension of language, extension of tribal language, extension of different regional language earlier which were dominant in nature. Now globalization has already led to extension of some of the language. They are on the verge of, or either they have extended or on the verge of extension. Now shifting global trade pattern. Shifting global trade pattern creates new opportunities. Examine. Means trade pattern if shifting, then what kind of opportunities with respect to economic development, with respect to social development, with respect to technological development, educational development, health development. So you can connect this in multiple ways. Shifting global trade pattern created new opportunities you need to examine. Examine rapid change in the technology due to shifting global trade pattern. More and more introduction, more and more amalgamation, imposition, utilization of IT services in each and every sector, including the trade pattern, including the trade sector. Improvement in the supply of goods. Now, supply of goods belongs to one region are available to another region. Indian goods are available to the Pakistan, not directly but through indirectly through the Dubai, etc. American goods, USA, American goods, Russian goods, England goods now flowing in our market, etc., etc. Chinese goods flowing over most of the world market. Improvement in the awareness due to consumption pattern, change in the production and consumption pattern, as well as better data management about the market requirement through different IT sources. USA get to know what kind of consumption pattern in India existed, what kind of customer, what kind of market it has. So one country to another country, we can know. China know very well what products can be consumed, can be marketed in India, etc. Now examine the morphological factors that influence the origin and growth of the town. You need to examine different various factors which led to growth of the town. Morphological factors may be your geographical features, relief may define precisely about the growth of the town. Generally, growth of the town in hilly areas is very poor, but in plain areas is very good, very strong. Okay. So slope of the area, hill, plain, plateau, etc. define the growth of the town. Further, water availability, water channels, transportation channels, etc. define the growth of the town. Fertility of land. If land is more fertile, such land can support a new civilization. That's why Harappa, Mohenjo-daro or different other Chinese civilization took place around the rivers, around the fertile lands. Important river water channel for the transportation. Generally in western countries, very good transportation services took place. So generally settlement is around towards the embankment, towards the bank of rivers, okay, in the periphery of rivers. Suitability of climate and weather in economic activities, also extreme condition in the climate may not suits for more and more growth of the town. Moderate climate are very much suitable for growth of the town. Further, in hot climate, tropical climate, generally we notice more and more population density. You can notice in Asia, you can notice in African continent, etc. So more and more growth of the town. Climate, weather, all such conditions, if there are more earthquake, more volcanic activities or such kind cyclonic activities, etc., then growth of the town will be impacted. So there are lot of morphological factors which are influencing in the origin of growth of the town. Now discuss the role of transportation accessibility in regional development. So you need to discuss the transportation accessibility in regional development, how transportation is assisting the regional development, how transportation is assisting the regional development. Okay. So transportation is assisting the regional development because where we have good transportation facilities, then we also notice rapid development along the highways, along the railways, along the waterways, along the airways. We notice good density, we notice rapid development of the market, we notice more and more economic activities, more and more occupation, we also notice more and more growth of different regions. So the importance of transportation for economic growth is widely noticed in different regions. Better will be the transportation facility, better will be the development. We are noticing even very big exclusive economic zone, markets, they are developed in those areas which are connected, which have very good connectivity with the transportation facilities. Transportation also supports the development of the factories, industries. So transportation is one of the big factor for development of the industries, development of the firms, the organization. Okay, so significant role of following ways of transportation in regional development. You can define precisely the role of roads. China is building one belt, one road. It is leading to huge development. Okay. Further, we are also developing our border routes. We are also developing our highways or different other program. We are developing our railways, the track, their size will increase automatically, economic activity will increase automatically, development, more and more development took place. Airways, waterways, pipelines, etc. If you have good transportation facility, then we are noticing from very long time period since ancient time period, the regional development, even when Britishers came to India. So generally they came to those areas first where transportation facility were better. Okay, so if any person from any other country coming to India, then generally these people coming through transportation modes. So transportation are very important for regional development. Now fifth E, we have less time here. Okay, we need to close by 8. Okay, so after extension of 5 or 10 minutes, we will complete it, no problem. Now explain the geometrical boundaries with example. Geometrical boundaries you need to explain. Geometrical boundaries means boundaries of the state in the form of geometry, maybe in triangular shape, maybe rectangular shape, or maybe just radial shape. Okay, so different kind of shape we have in the boundaries and different pattern we have in the boundaries. Geometric boundaries is a political boundary that takes on clear and neat geographical shape. The benefit of geometric boundary is that they are easy to mark on the map and easy to understand. They are easy to mark on the map and easy to understand. Okay, but we do not have very long practice of demarcation of boundaries. We learned it from the Britishers. Okay. That's why we have lot of dispute over the boundaries, because earlier we used to habit of open border. We learned it from the Britishers. That's why Western countries and some of African countries have very good, well-defined boundaries. Even USA having very rectangular pattern of geographical boundaries of the state. Australia, Canada, US were drawn up by supervisory surveyors before significant colonization had take place, etc. So different kind of antecedent boundary, subsequent boundary, superimposed boundary, relic boundaries, you can define them. Okay. So boundaries, these antecedent boundaries predates evolution of cultural, generally culture based boundaries. Subsequent boundaries, political boundaries created after two groups have already settled over there. Okay. Superimposed boundaries means one culture superimposed over another culture. Okay. Relic boundaries generally not recognized, not demarcated, but generally remain as the historic fact, just like Wall of China, Hadrian's Wall, okay, in Roman Empire to defend the fort. So all such boundary which are no longer in use at present, but they are just remaining as the boundary. Okay, so relic boundary. Now question 6a. Culture is dynamic concept, elucidate with the example. You need to elucidate with the example that culture is a dynamic concept. You need to prove. I think there is no big worry about proving that culture is a dynamic concept. First you will define the culture. Culture is when we live, we develop certain norms, rules and regulation. Then it becomes culture. Okay, culture to a large and diverse set of mostly intangible aspect of the social life. It consists of value, belief, system of language, communication, practice, people share in common, used to be defined them collectively. Culture is also include material. So culture is the shared rule. We share culture with each other. Okay. Then transmittive form from region to region. Western culture is coming to India, Indian culture is moving outside, etc. Okay, trickle down from one generation to another generation. We notice trickle down impact. Okay, so culture is trickle down from one generation to another generation, then integrated system of the culture Culture adaptation with the time, generally when suppose that if you started to live in Europe, then you started to absorb the culture of Europeans. Suppose that in Goa we have culture of Portuguese, because along with the time people adopted Portuguese culture. Okay, depletion with the time as well as amalgamation of the culture, one culture with another culture. Now 6b, automation is rapidly changing the economies, labor. Automation is rapidly changing the economies of labor and will affect the trade pattern in significant way. You need to clarify how automation is rapidly changing the economies of labor. So automation is changing in several ways. Automation is causing job loss as well as job creation. Automation, a new division of labor between humans and machine, will disrupt more than 50 million jobs globally. In medium, more than 50 million jobs globally, around by 2025, it will be around 80 million jobs, okay, will be impacted by automation. So impact of automation in job creation. Automation create job generally related to very high profile based on technology, high skill, etc. Impact of automation on job loss. Due to automation, the people who were earlier working manually, now due to adoption of automation, they are no longer in use. Change in the ways due to automation, change in the skill development, more in favor of rich entrepreneur rather than poor, because rich started to earn more and more profit because of more and more machine based production. Overcrowding leads to chronic problem of shortage of housing in India, in Indian cities, especially in metro cities in Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai. We are noticing overcrowding problem, specifically more acute to those urban areas. There is large influx of unemployed people. Immigrants problem is there, lot of migration from rural areas to urban areas, etc. They are creating huge burden of the house in the urban area. So overcrowding, a chronic problem, you can define it. You can write 5-6 points. After that, you need also provide some solution what government of India is taking the initiative. So government of India is taking initiative affordable house in the partnership with the private individuals, so that burden of finance can be shared with the private individual. In situ slum redevelopment, destruction of the slum and their redevelopment by the private individual. Okay, beneficiary led construction means the person who want to construct house will receive subsidy from the government, and he can develop his own house, credit linked subsidy scheme, etc. that government is providing for reducing the impact of overcrowding in the cities. Now climate change is the serious problem to the global food security and the poverty eradication. You need to critically examine how climate change is a challenge over food security, and such kind of questions are very much common